We're here to talk about AI today and how it's kind of disrupting and changing industries across the board. Where is it? Where should we be thinking of AI in terms of how it can play into other industries and what it does?
Yeah, well, so with AI, you can suddenly take all the data that industries have accumulated, and they have accumulated a lot, and clean that data up and do computing on it to discover new insights. And so where you see that playing out, one of the earliest really in use today practical applications is with call centers, where you have natural language understanding and you can augment the humans tremendously. You see it in financial services with fraud detection, anti-money laundering. Of course, you see it in health with diagnostics. People can, anywhere where if you can look at more data than a human in their lifetime might even be able to see and detect the patterns and adapt to, and learn from it, just similar to a human learning from looking at image after image, you're going to be able to do things in a way that augments humans very powerfully. So you can detect, one of the examples in medicine is diabetic retinopathy, where they can diagnose that from looking at the retina as well or better than a doctor would be able to.
Or diagnose that you're maybe losing your vision at some point?
Yeah, that you have this problem,
yeah.
Yeah, and if you get it early, of course, you can do something about it.
So how quickly are things changing right now? What is the disruption factor?
I think it's probably one of the fastest changes. I mean, what's happened is historically, our computing's always been important, but it was constrained by how a human could code up an algorithm to analyze and compute on something, and now you can combine the data with the compute, and the algorithm can learn from the data. And so once you start doing that, you start getting insights you've never gotten before that can kind of leapfrog what you're able to do. In industry, this is kind of true across the board. You can look at energy, you can look at financial services, the media, gaming, and health is a big one. Retail is using it for customer connectivity. And once you can do that, you can do things more efficiently and you can do things more effectively. The big challenge industry has right now is integrating it into their current workflows. So you can't just throw AI at the problem. You have to thoughtfully make it work with the humans that are there working and the way they already do things and adapt it.
China has more patents in AI, they have more startups in AI, and they have more papers published in artificial intelligence than the United States does. Do you think they're beating us on this race with AI?
Well, I think that the Chinese government is certainly funding a lot of AI, and we need to fund AI more. We need to fund research more. I would say we have an amazing assemblage of the top AI talent in the world here in the U.S., and both sides are working really quickly. Part of AI is having a lot of compute and having a lot of data, and the more you have of both, generally, the more accurate your results are. And so in China, where you have this giant population, they have a lot of data to work on. And so we have challenges in bringing all our data together and ensuring privacy of that data.
That's what I was going to say. Here in the United States, we care about privacy. China, not so much. How does that constrain things, and how can you do this and ramp up and win at AI without completely compromising people's data?
Yeah, I think we're fast developing credible ways to ensure the privacy of data, and I'm sure that's something that'll happen here at MIT and other places. And we're also automating ways to bring disjoint data sets together so we can have larger data sets. And actually, there was recently an interesting study done jointly on Chinese health data for common childhood diseases, where a researcher in the US, I think in San Diego, worked with a Chinese researcher. and they work together on a 600,000 person patient data set, something that would be pretty hard to come by here.
Joe has a question from back in the studio, too. Joe, go ahead.
I'm just wondering at this point, I mean, Andrew wanted to ask the question earlier, are we going to be able to compete just with our system in that the money that's required, be nice if we had the same type of participation as the Chinese have in terms of funding things. Can we do it in this country to the same extent, or are we doomed to be second, do you think? Because we're just never going to have that type of commitment.
I think, you know, I think here in the U.S. we've got so much momentum and understanding of what's needed, and we've, you know, for instance, part of AI, there's this sort of maxim, no chip, no AI. You know, people are building customized AI chips, so it's the entire stack, and the U.S. has been doing, you know, really well there. We have a strong semiconductor industry, and so, but the funding is needed. You need huge amounts of compute, and you need a lot of research going on, and so it's incumbent on our government to be funding this. But I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't say, Uncle, it's all over by any stretch of the imagination.